use the analogy of the cross, and there's a vertical part to the cross, and the horizontal hangs on the vertical. And our relationship with God,
that's a good
intimacy
example.
with God is what fuels and enables us to have intimacy
with each other.
With each other.
With God, there is always more. More love, more life, more freedom. Welcome to Zoweh's Exploring More with Michael Thompson. C.S. Lewis once wrote, "Our Heavenly Father has provided many delightful inns for us along our journey, but He takes great care to see that we do not mistake any of them for home." Join me and the team as we explore the kingdom together, discovering the deep truths and offering encouragement for the journey. There is always more.
All right, welcome friends and allies to the Exploring More podcast.
Yeah.
2022 edition.
Right.
It's fall of 2022, and we've had some time away from the microphones. You've picked some of our most downloaded and most listened to podcasts, but this is different.
Yeah.
We changed the studio out.
I feel like I'm being watched.
That's right. Well, that's part of it. So for those of you who have not seen, I don't even know which camera here, but love it. So we decided, felt like the Lord was leading us to a little different format, a little different platform. Same two Yahoos and a bunch of their friends on our team.
Yeah, we've got the table here, as you see. We're set up for having crowds in here.
That's right.
We're going to, at some point.
We could do 2 per mic, and that'd be 8.
We probably could. The table's big enough.
Yeah.
I don't know if Caleb could get everybody in
on the wide angles.
Shots.
We'd have to change the cameras out. But so
Caleb's our engineer here in the studio with us as well.
Yeah.
So say hey to Caleb. It's been quite a year, actually. There's been a full 2022 already. And we revisited some of our most requested episodes and things for a while, and then we took a few weeks, and we've got a lot of balls flying in the air. So,
SJ, what's one of your favorites that you threw out there again through the summer?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think debunking prayer.
Yeah,
was a great series, 4-part series. We had Greg in the studio for that one too. Yeah, I just love that we talked so candidly about it, and hopefully help some people.
Right.
I know it helped me to talk about it and then to listen again.
Yeah.
I think we just have preconceived notions about how to pray, who to pray, how you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
What posture do you have to be in?
Yeah.
And all of that. So I think that's one of my favorites.
For me in that series, it's there's so many more ways to pray than I knew.
Right.
And I think that's kind of what we wanted to contrast,
and
some
propose,
of it's funny how I think about, you learn some rote prayers as a kid, but you don't think you're doing rote prayers as an adult.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's amazing. You kind of change the words and they don't rhyme like when you're a kid. But I think that was just helpful. It was helpful for us and to learn those things, and I think it was really good to share those things.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Good.
Yeah. What about you?
I think the 4 pillars just continues to be, this 4 Pillars of Zoweh series. It was one of those things that we got to do, and probably needs. What is that? What do the 4 pillars look like now?
Yeah, because we're continuing to explore.
Yeah, but that was a few years ago. But it was, I think we did it because we were really identifying that this is core to us. This is what we do, And it wasn't that we wrote them up and then said, "Let's go do these things." It was kind of like, what is it that we do, and what's really important to us? And it was like boom, 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 boom.
What are we saying
all the time?
Someone asked us about Zoweh in an elevator.
What is Zoweh? What do you guys do? And so the 4 pillars: intimacy, oneness, connectedness with God, and that leading to the pillar of an oriented man or woman. That through intimacy with God, you come to experience who you are, where you are, and the good God's up to in your life. So orientation. And then, moving from orientation into what does that look like? What kind of person does an oriented man or woman, how do they live, right? And hide, prove nothing
to fear. Yeah.
And then the cycle kind of, it wasn't just these steps. It feels like that. What I like about the pillars is they hold something, because that fourth pillar is, now I can live more life, more love, more freedom, and so I just
which leads to more
intimacy,
with God.
right?
Yeah.
So
Around in the bases.
I do, yes, and I think that's a great way to say it, and that's what we do here at Zoweh. So anybody who's joining us for some of our first video podcasting, there'll be the audio platforms that's still going to continue, but people can find us now on YouTube, and an opportunity for us to, sometimes it's back to being known, being seen, and engaging. And so, so that's why we felt like it was a good time to make a shift and change. But those are great podcasts, and I love hearing that we put those back out there again.
I think too, after 200 some odd episodes, it was time to move into season 2. So that
was a long season 1, man.
It was, man.
A couple years.
We were talking with Serena, who's another engineer that works on the podcast, some of our other content. She's been with us from the beginning. Helped us record the audio version of Heart of a Warrior, and we're going to do that with King Me with her as well. She does a great job. We were talking about this transition to video. And she said, well, what do you think about moving to season 2? And I was on the phone with her. There's just a silence. I was like, oh, yeah. I guess maybe we'll do that. It's probably time. So
is it listed in seasons like that? Is there seasons?
No, not yet, but I think we're going to do
I think when you watch any video series, there's these, it's episode 1, season 2.
Even if we don't end up delineating it that way, this is a new season for us.
It is.
Right? You like how I parlayed?
I like that.
That was a nice transition. So, it's a new season for us. Definitely try this video format out, man. And so we're looking forward to doing it and getting into some new topics that God has kind of been bringing to our hearts.
We've been exploring more. God's taken us into some great discoveries and taken us into some pretty important, validation in some of the things that, like I said, in the 4 pillars, that deeper into things that we've already been journeying in. So,
Yeah, so I was thinking, man, maybe we could talk a little bit about kind of, what's been going on with Zoweh, give that kind of update to our listeners and now our viewers.
Yeah.
And then maybe if we've got time, a little bit of we could tell a little bit of a personal what's God up to lately, for each of us, and then see where we go from there.
Sure. Talk about the season ahead a little bit. Some of the things.
Yeah,
it's all kind of mingled around, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So what's the first one? Where we started going first?
Let's give an update on what's been going on with Zoweh. In the past year or so.
Yeah.
Because we've had some newer episodes earlier in the year.
Yeah.
We did the transition from end of year, walking with God in the new year, those kind of episodes. And we've talked about some other things, and we revisited some previous episodes.
Yeah.
But to give an update on, what's been going on around here. I mean, we've added some team members.
Yep. Yeah, all that.
Amy is with the editors.
Right.
I mean, all of that kind of thing. So.
Yeah. The larger context we've all been exposed to is, COVID and pandemic and masks. And, so when I think back to earlier in the year, though there's been some changes, there's been some, things that aren't mandatory in certain way. I mean, even flying, I've been on some trips, seeing allies, been to, Ohio and Colorado and, in events where we've been hosting gatherings and stuff. So just the change, it just feels environmentally a little different
It does.
I think too that personally, there has been so much. I think with that context, kind of at its heightened spaces, it's brought about a lot of isolation. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a lot of concern where kind of over the edge of concern is this thing called fear.
Right.
Concern can give way to fear easily. And you don't know sometimes till you're well across that line that you're dealing with an anxiety, or you're dealing with pressure, you're dealing with... I remember last fall, my daughter Hannah and I went to a basketball game, a college basketball game, and we showed up, and there was just all kinds of security measures regarding vaccinations and, yes, masks. It was still in that time, but there was, if you flew, you felt some of that, hey,
Sure.
hey, get your mask up. Flight attendants were notorious for, add that to the, is your chair up, your tray table up, and is your mask up,
Right.
and so just feeling like you're being, I don't know that we even realized that how much surveillance we felt, being watched, being and judged, right? And then there goes. Yeah. So I think, SJ, it's just interesting to say, as we look at this time, I look back and I'm not sure the effects of a lot of that is all out, all gone. We on our team we had some COVID tested positives, and watching the virus change and all of that, I just think that one of the things that we're seeing as we go forward in the kingdom is this isolation thing. And one way to answer, well, where did that come from? Why does that feel so significant now? Look where we've been.
Yeah.
Through quarantine and
it's kind of forced isolation for a while.
And some folks are kind of prone, most of us are, I think the enemy, kingdom of darkness, works that way.
Sure.
Without a vaccination, without a COVID scare, without a pandemic, without all of that, there seems to be something working against image bearers. It feels like the enemy got the field position on that one, though. Mm-hmm. And so when we had already decided this, to try to move to the video platform, but I think it's something that we're going to get to talk about, for a little while. How does that look? How's that work? How's that feel? Where's Jesus in all of that?
Right.
What is the cost of isolation? What breaks down that increases isolation, and then what does isolation actually support? Because it's the one I think of immediately is trust. Where you can't love and not trust someone, and if you don't trust someone, it'll be very hard to engage in relationships. And so there's just a lot of things there that I'm not sure we're done processing. And maybe we can talk about.
Yeah, I wonder what comes to my mind as you talk about that is, how much of that are we responsible for perpetuating? It's not all the kingdom of darkness's fault. Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that's not to say. I think our listeners know us well enough to know that we are not a big fan of the idea that you're supposed to just pull yourself up by your bootstraps, right?
Yeah.
But there is some intentionality that I think God asks for and expects in that regard. So yeah, it'll be interesting to talk more about that. I think we could do a whole series.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's when it's just hard to process the amount of information we've been processing in the political climate, in the pandemic climate, in in relationships, all of that just mixes together for something that can be pretty toxic to relationships and relationships with the Lord. It's challenging. It's just so hard to do this well, us and God, and this not be doing well. I mean, there's just relationship within those things because they're connected,
No doubt. I had a friend of mine, Dave Wilson, who's a pastor of a big church up there in Detroit.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of the church right now, but he shared it exactly that way, and that and he used the analogy of the cross. And there's a vertical part to the cross, and the horizontal hangs on the vertical. And our relationship with God,
that's a good
intimacy
example.
with God is what fuels and enables us to have intimacy
with each other.
And if something's not, right this way vertically, then it's not going to be right horizontally either.
Yeah, so to swing in a little bit to the being with people, in the spring and at the last of our events, and then through the summer with some of our allies gatherings, and Father's Day we went up to Richmond and and it was June. I mean,
Southside. Shout out to Southside up there.
Yeah, that was a great mission, and excited about staying connected with. Though it wasn't just one, we had a Saturday we had an allies gathering, and probably 6 different churches represented, and then got to be on stage, I'll say this word, at the pulpit. It's not one of my normal words to use, but I'm at the pulpit, and
that's
talking
on our
about
YouTube channel, actually, that message that you gave.
Yeah, just wanting to encourage men in that role of fatherhood. It's good and hard, and so, but I was thinking about that. I mean, even back in June, that church was flying about half, and the number of people who have moved either to somewhere else or to something else, is a part of that.
Sure.
What I'm trying to describe as the context of this story, that we are in. So it does feel like somehow isolation's been even more available.
Yeah.
If I could use a sentence that doesn't easily, to fall into, because it's kind of like the grade of it snuck under our feet in ways that it took far less effort to isolate because the context and the climate was that way. And so,
it's amazing what you can become accustomed to.
Oh yeah.
And become comfortable with.
Yeah.
Even if it's not good for you.
Yeah, the normal, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, immediately I go to Shawshank.
Sure.
And when they're talking about these bars, these walls, and getting them becoming comfortable, then becoming your normal, and then them becoming. Yeah, you need them, right? And you don't know who to institutionalize. That's the word, man. And you don't know who to be or what to be when you get outside of this place. Yeah. In here, I can get stuff for people. I'm somebody. Out there, I don't know. Yeah. So that's. Thank you for bringing us to that punchline. I think that's a real danger in the institutional spaces of isolation, and what that means. So there's a lot to explore, a lot to talk about. I think we all found on our team anyway. You were talking about some of the changes. The Zoweh team got bigger.
Yep.
We had our friends Chris and Maggie Greenway, who have been great friends and allies, leave Seattle.
Yeah.
And move here. Chris to be the CFO and Maggie to.
We'll have to have Chris on sometime to tell that story of how that.
Oh started. Yeah.
I mean, he went to his first Harbor Warrior encounter out west in 2018.
Yeah.
just 4 years ago. And here
Yeah.
they're moving their whole family across the country. Maggie's part of the women's team now and is going to be
Yeah.
doing a lot of social media work for us.
Yeah,
So,
I think the
great.
Exploring More podcast folks will get to hear both of them
Yeah.
at different times as we look forward to things. But just seeing him come into that role and what he's doing with our organization, I mean, I got out of a meeting with them looking at the numbers, the budget, CFO stuff. And man, he was just grinning. He's like, I'm like, you all right? He said, man, I just love this. Like meeting with me.
You wanna do my finance?
I was gonna say like meeting with me. No, the numbers.
The numbers.
He just and so that's the guy you want, in your CFO space. So
No doubt.
he's
Guy
awesome.
that loves spreadsheets.
Oh, and he does Excel file like. He does an Excel file like an NFL quarterback would read a defense.
Yeah.
I mean, he just knows a language and he knows what he's looking for. I mean, watching that guy fly around an Excel sheet made me dizzy. It's like, oh my bro, But very, very helpful. So they've come, and yeah, Caleb joining us, our youngest crew member, who's taken on the technology and the spaces with podcasting and responsible for so much of this. Oh yeah. And a real creative heart and
Even beyond with Chris and Maggie, Caleb, to really any one of our team, that's what they can do and what they're gifted at is wonderful. But their presence, their personality, how God has created them, and how what they bring in that regard, relationship, wise in the team, is in some respects even more important to us. What we say all the time is that we're not just an organization, we're not a
Ministry.
typical ministry.
right
We are a redemptive community. Who also happen to be on mission and work together.
right.
Yeah.
And so I've heard you say it a few times, if not many, trying to do this. We don't know where the blueprints are for this,
Right.
though we know that God this is what He's inviting us and calling us to be and do together is friendship, redemptive community, and on mission, and that being on mission together. So.
Yeah. Jim McCauley too. Is
Yeah,
another one
joining
that's
the troops.
He's going to take a lot of the responsibility from Sherry when it comes to event coordination to
Yep.
free her up to be more involved with women's initiatives. But he retired from a career in the lumber industry
Right.
for years and years and years doing that.
I think he was like the vice president of sales or president of sales or something. So, yeah. We stuck him in a little
higher up
little.
guys.
We put him in a little cubicle with a couple other people. So, put him in a cage.
Yeah.
Get in there, man.
in there.
So
That's right.
So seeing, I think part of this is just how our team has grown and the way in which we have been and are still kind of dividing back up the responsibilities and the opportunities to take things. Josh is still, he was only the newest guy for about 4 months. And then here came these guys. So
That's right. And then we brought Noah in too, Noah Dunnigan, right? He's our part-timer helping with fulfilling orders, packing boxes and stuff.
which is funny, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's,
I remember when he was like 5.
well, he's on the cover of the Heart of a Warrior book.
That's right.
And he's that
He's the kid
boy
holding the
holding
sword.
that sword that's bigger than him. Now he's what, 6'5"?
Yeah, he's man,
So, and that was
put a
2015.
basketball in that kid's hand.
Yeah, and but so it's been really, really wild to see all of that happen in the last 6 months, and so all of that to say, we're in that game too, and learning how to walk with God, and had some big. We had a Zoweh Philos, had all of our partners together. We were invited. All of them were invited, but to come to Durham, that was a blast. Just to bring them closer.
Right. Tell the listeners what that is for those of us that don't speak Greek.
Yeah. So Zoe is the Greek word for life that Jesus uses in John 10:10. I came that they might have Zoe and have it to the full. So a kind of life, in essence, a type of life that Jesus is talking about. Not C.S. Lewis talks about it this way. There's the bio, there's the kind of life that's sustained with, air and water and, nutrition and exercise. That's the bios. But the Zoweh life is one that's sustained by God.
Right.
And
Abundant
the abundant life and with God. And so that's Zoweh. And then philos is the Greek word for friend, and a deep friendship, actually. It's a kind of friend and friendship that's intimate. You might think of brotherhood, like Philadelphia, city of brotherly love. So Zoweh philos is the Zoweh friends, is the life friends, the men and women who support Zoweh, fuel the mission with their monthly or annual or different kinds of giving. And so I've seen some other organizations do it and just really felt like it was something we could do.
Yeah. And it was we did on the podcast, we had a couple of episodes where we took the audio from our Night of Stories.
Yeah.
And shared that with our podcast listeners. So it was kind of an advanced version of that. Right?
Yeah, more of that, where a night we were giving the history. That's what Night of Stories is. That podcast is kind of the history of Zoweh and how it came about, how God brought us about. But this was a little more about the way Zoweh rolls, not how it was brought about, but how we roll, how different divisions from resources and operations and events, all of that, and team members getting to share with an audience of partners who, we just heard over and over again, I didn't know that. I had no idea, and it is so good to know what they do and and how they offer. So it was a good family. Felt like a lot of distant relatives kind of coming together.
It did
for a reunion and to share and celebrate and enjoy. We did a couple of our event conference sessions, like the Two Realms, Two Kingdoms, one that we do at all of them, and brought in a little bit of the glory of your life, which we've podcasted about with Gary Barkalow. So we gave him tastes of things, and that was really fun. Really enjoyed it.
It was cool, I think, too, to have, there was, I think, at least one couple who has been with you and Robin since your AIA days.
Campus Crusade days. Yeah, man.
Yeah. Oh, man, I can see them, but I can't remember their names.
Cam and Margaret Ann.
Cam and Margaret Ann Hall. That's right. Yeah, man. That was really cool.
No, we added it up, and it's right at almost 30 years.
Yeah. Wow.
So
that's amazing.
We gave them the golden pin and
that's right.
said thank you for your support. So but to have partners that have been with you and fueling it is one thing, but inviting them to be in it with us and on it with us, that was kind of what we were trying to bring, even more close than we were. And a lot of alumni do support, and so it was a good thing, and I felt like the team did great and shared some of their roles and what they do. So loved that. Yeah,
it was great.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of Exploring More. The landing page for this podcast is zoweh.org/podcast. That's ZOWEH.org/podcast, where you can find the show notes and various platforms to which we broadcast. You can also find us and the Life of More by visiting Zoweh on YouVersion Bible app, Right Now Media, our Facebook page, and Zoweh on Instagram and Twitter. Remember, with God there is always more, and you were made for more.